I wanted to see the world.
I longed for the romance of travel
Now we live on a sailboat.
and travel the oceans. Join us as we sail to distant shores.
Hey!
Good morning,
everybody.
Happy Sunday. It's 11 o'clock in the morning here just north of Toronto, Canada. So good morning to those of you in our time zone and out on the Pacific Coast where it's 8 in the morning. Sorry about that, guys, on a Sunday.
We see
But-
some people from England.
Yes, so good
afternoon
afternoon
in
to
the UK.
you, and also in Scandinavia. It's 5 o'clock, I believe.
Yep.
We have a really nice program planned for you today on voyage planning and all about how to sail to your dream destination. So my first question today is, what is your dream destination? Where is it that you're dreaming of sailing to? Or maybe you're there already. Welcome to those of you that are on board your boat or maybe have returned from a voyage and have lots of stories to share. And we really hope that you will jump in and share your experience with the community here on the Distant Shores YouTube channel, because it's all about learning and sharing information, and sailors are really good about that.
Yeah, so what are we getting here? So, hello from Galicia, Spain. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hello from Russia.
Hey,
Wow, that's pretty
welcome.
cool.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Distant Shores
That's just the
airs
first two in
on
Germany.
TV in Russia.
Germany, Virginia, California, Canada.
Yeah, hey guys.
And Kitchener just down the road. So.
Yes, yeah, welcome everybody.
Is our new boat done yet? No, it's not. Quick update. No, but it has been started. So that's
Yes,
really
yeah, they've just started laying the hull. It's been a long process because we've been involved in the design stages of that boat. And Discovery Yachts, the manufacturer of our new boat, it has just acquired Southerly Yachts. And if you've been following us at all, you know that we're huge fans of Southerlies. We have owned two Southerly yachts, a 42 and a 49, both of which were featured in the Distant Shores Sailing Adventure TV series. And so we were, quite involved in getting the Southerly brand back because they hadn't been building boats for a few years. And now Discovery Yachts will be offering the Southerly brand. So Distant Shores 3.
And at the
will be the
Southampton
first-
Boat Show is really the launch. So is anybody going to go to Southampton Boat Show? Because
Yeah.
we're going to be there. So we'll be happy to meet up with people in Southampton. So people are going to be there. I know we have a bunch of UK
Yes,
and
yeah.
maybe some other people from Europe might also go to Southampton. It's a fun show. I put it in the same sort of class as Annapolis as a
Yes,
a
and
fun
we'll
outdoor
be
show.
At Annapolis this year. We'll be posting our boat show appearances and seminars this week on the
Yeah.
Distant Shores website, distantshores.ca. And we will be at Southampton in the UK, Annapolis in the USA, Toronto in Canada, our home show in January, and then the Dusseldorf Boat Show, where you will see Distant Shores 3, all
Fingers
going
crossed,
well,
fingers
knock
crossed.
on wood.
Yeah, as a new build, first build,
Yes.
hull number 1. So
Yes, but very exciting.
And we're very excited looking at the route planning and talking about route planning that we're going to do today.
Well,
I'm just going to.
I asked everybody what
Yes,
their dream
exactly. Well, let's-
destination
what have we got
was.
there?
And Tony Garapi, his destination is the ocean. Now that is a very good point. That is something that is truly, like, what is your goal? Is it a specific place, or is it an accomplishment to navigate a certain body of water? To have done an ocean crossing. I know that was very big for us when we did our very first cruise. We didn't have a lot of experience, but we knew that ultimately someday we wanted to cross an ocean. It's just such an achievement for a sailor, in our minds anyway.
I'm more like the chicken that wants to get to the other side rather than wants to be out in the middle. I mean,
Well, that's
as much as I
true.
do enjoy being out in the middle, I think for me it's always about getting to the destination.
where we're
So
headed. Yeah.
my worst world cruise ever would be if we just went all around the world and never stopped. That would be, these nonstop around the world race would be my nightmare cruise, you know.
Yeah,
so
we like to see
wanna
what's
make
on
as
the
many-
shore.
as
Distant
many
shores,
stops.
What's on distant shores?
Distant
That's
shores,
our goal.
not distant seas. That's right for us.
So that is a determining factor.
Yeah.
One of the determining factors, like just to know what it is you're hoping to achieve, like what your dream is about. Is it a place, or is it developing skills by doing a certain trip? For example, from Toronto, our very first trip was to go down through the Erie Canal to New York City and then through the Intercoastal Waterway. And it was a huge learning curve for us from, being in the Great Lakes where there's no tide and currents.
With boat handling and boat
Yeah,
maintenance and living
locks
aboard
and-
and locks, and we didn't even do hardly any offshore. But
Right, but that was part of, we wanted to do it because we knew we would learn a lot and get a lot of confidence before we, headed out to the Bahamas and sailed in foreign places, or what seemed very foreign to us. And then again, like everything we were doing on all our trips was to build skills and confidence towards our ultimate, goal of crossing the Atlantic. And remember that, Paul, the first time we crossed the Atlantic, we were so focused on, just doing the passage and having the boat ready and everything. And we got to the Portuguese islands of the Azores and we realized we didn't know a word of Portuguese. We didn't even have a dictionary. I mean, we hadn't even thought about what we were going to do. In fact, actually, I have my
Now we have-
Algarve de Carvon.
now we have way
my
more
Azores
books,
t-shirt
and
on today.
we have a different system now. We'll show you a little bit of that first.
Yeah.
So first of all, obvious route planning. I'm going to use different examples today of the cruise planning that we've been doing the last few weeks, as we've put up cruises and our plan for the next year and a half. You see it over on the screen here in the background. So this is Google My Maps. Oops, there we go. Oops, that's a bit too zoomed in, and that's a bit too zoomed out. Anyway, there we go.
Yeah. So for part of our first criteria, and really anybody's, is the boat. Do you have a boat? Because you can still achieve your dream cruise without a boat. You can charter, you can crew with friends, or join us on one of our sail away weeks, or other people. There's lots of options for that. And our previous boat was a Southerly 49, which we loved and would have been more than capable of doing a circumnavigation. But we knew for the South Pacific, which is now our new destination, our new goal, we've never been there before, we want to have more friends and crew on board. And we just found, although the 49 was a fabulous boat, we just didn't feel good about all the sea berths that it offered. So the new boat, part of the design, is that we have a lot more sea berths.
I've just put up some shots there.
And a new cabin top, so the boat is a true pilot house, so that in foul weather or in cold climates, we can actually steer from down below. The
forward cabin is really big and luxurious. Then there's a bunk cabin, and then that we'll probably take when people come on board, and a big luxurious aft cabin that we're also making available to people who come and sail with us to experience it. So
yes, love it to have you aboard.
yeah.
Oh, we've got a few people's goals here to do the Great Loop. That's a trip down through the USA and Canada. It's a big loop. You can do it in a powerboat or a sailboat, and it's very secure waters, and it's a fantastic way to see, inland USA and the Trent Severn Waterway and Georgian Bay in Canada.
We've done about half of the Great Loop because we've come all the way up to here, which is on the Trent Severn, which is where we are, which is basically in Lake Simcoe, where we are, and we haven't really gone past that. So then you go down the Mississippi and everything. One of the things about planning a journey like that is you can generally read whole accounts of people who've done the entire thing. So it isn't going to be the definitive how to do it, but it'll be a great way to get started, because first of all you read it and you think, geez, it sounds terrible. They kept hitting barges in the Mississippi. I don't want to do that. And then there was the log hit the propeller every 2 days. So No, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
So
as example.
so maybe you read it and you think, wow, that's amazing. They went to the Bahamas. They just sat around. They drank beer. It sounds like just my kind of cruise. So so that's what I'm going to do. And so
Yeah.
you get that idea, and then that's the start to planning the cruise. But that isn't the end of it. I definitely wouldn't just try to duplicate exactly what
Yeah.
somebody made a video about.
Right.
Because you can. The next stage is to do a lot more in-depth research. So we have a few
Yeah.
books here and props and whatever. Let me just put up one of these shots. These are some
Yeah.
pretty funny shots. There's some of the cruising guides that we bought for the year that we went north. What did we do that
From
year?
the UK
That's going north
up
up the
to
Solent and everything.
Yeah.
And
I think we
where are
did.
we? That one.
Yeah.
This is actually the whole stack for 2 years.
yeah.
So that's why we don't have a lightweight catamaran, because you're not allowed to pack 150 pounds of cruise guides on a lightweight
And
catamaran.
now so many more guides you can, have on your tablet.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you could.
So
I still
life-
like opening a real
Yes.
paper book. But anyway, some books like this. This is a Pacific Crossing. This is a RCC. I'll hold that up to the camera. RCC Pilotage Foundation. They do really amazing books. Like coming up in the plan we had just showing you, we'll be visiting the Canaries Islands, and there's another. Let me just go to full screen. So this is like a Canary Islands, Atlantic Islands, Canaries, Azores, Madeira, Cape Verde, and it's all in the one book. And then it's a big, heavy book. It's got a lot of detail, a lot of charts. And once you've decided that you've read some accounts or books or seen pictures and you want to go, or you're from the islands and you want to visit them, then a book like this. So here'd be what you'd start off with
Sort of planning sketch chart.
a planning chart for
Overview.
either how to get there. In this case, because there's a lot of Canary Islands and you can make passages between them, it'll list this kind of thing. And the great thing we like about a cruising guide is that it's a really definitive guide. You found a bunch of experts who've got together, in this case the RCC Pilotage Foundation, which is a whole pile of really knowledgeable cruisers who've done tons and tons of miles and visited the place many times. And they've got together and edited this up. It's not like group sourced online
Right.
blogs. It's like, hey, I went there and the guy was grumpy and I got a good sandwich. And
Yeah. Those are good details.
yeah, it's informational, but this
we
is,
always start with
Yeah.
the official cruise guides. We get a planning chart for the area. For example, we've never sailed in the South Pacific. It's all new for us. So we ordered the South Pacific planning chart, and in our home base just north of Toronto, Paul built a coffee table for our living room
there's our coffee table.
that will fit a chart. So it just helps to keep it in front of us, keep all those destinations in our mind, get familiar with the names. I mean, in the South Pacific, all the island names sound the same to me at this point. So
Gumaku, Palau, Palu, Oahu, Nuhu,
lots of
Nui, and
research to be done.
Rapa
And I
Nui.
see somebody here is off to the South Pacific this coming season. So hey, cool. We'll be following your blog to get information.
I think Rand Sailing was going to do the South
They're
Pacific, aren't
heading
they?
out
They'll be
the
there
same
just
way.
before us. so.
Yes, yeah.
By the way, this coffee table has, I can't see in the picture, but it's got glass on top, so you can put your coffee on top of that. So it really is a coffee table.
Yes, and underneath it is the North Atlantic chart.
Yeah, so we
Because
just
we've spent a lot of time
we just
there.
keep trying to learn the destinations that way and
Yeah.
get more questions and say, well, when are we going to make this passage? Because
Right.
again, you're looking at places that you're going to go. So, here we are starting in England. Now the boats should be finished at Dusseldorf at the boat show and back in England in February, but that's pretty early to be sailing any distance around this area up here. So we're going to be looking at waiting a little bit until sort of late March maybe, and then doing a little bit of sailing around in that area. And you can get some ideas of that kind of plan. So if we're going to start from up here in England, we want to wait a little bit and then get going on some of the legs. So these first legs I plan to come down to the coast wouldn't be until May and June. So we're going
Right.
to start to do some real actual sailing. And then we have
And
June
all
and
that
July.
weather information, we start off by getting that weather information from the cruising guides. There are lots of resources online. Noonsite, NOONSITE.com is a huge resource. You can search on any country, and there's just general information that's kept up to date by the World Cruising Club and people that are out cruising, and it's like how to check in, what things cost, if there's any security problems, etc. It's a very good resource online. And I think, did that start from Jimmy Cornell's World
Jimmy
Cruising
Cornell
Routes?
started
Another
an Insight
book.
website. And I was going to say next, one of the other great resources for that is Jimmy Cornell's World Cruising Routes
Yes.
book, which we always used and which I can't find because I think it's packed
Yeah,
and
it's
and
packed
it's not
for,
here. So
for the new boat.
anyway, this is a page out of it, not actually the routes, but this is a pilot chart. So this is another useful tool where you can look at what the typical weather patterns are going to be for each month. So this is March, and it's just through the Panama to Galapagos and across the Pacific. And then each of the squares that you're seeing there, or the little arrows, are showing predominant winds. So in the red circles, you've got mostly winds predominate out of the northeast and east. And then almost nothing comes from the other direction, and only 6% of calm. So you start to look at this and say, oh, well, we're going to sort of sail a bit north here would be good, and then a bit south, and that'll work in March. So it's another good resource. It's probably the next stage. Once you've got an idea generally what you're going to do, best time, you can start planning the passage by how long things are going to take.
Right. And can I interrupt just for a minute?
Of course.
We've had a few questions from people. Are we going to put the recording up later of this because they have to leave or their wife would like to watch later? And yes, definitely, the recording will be up. So
I'll trim the front off it and make it start nice and
Yeah,
professional, and
and
we'll leave the recording up on YouTube.
there'll
so.
be a playlist of all the Q&As we've done. So yes, in answer
Yep.
to all your questions. Thank you.
Yep. The answer to every question is yes. That's great.
No.
I didn't know that.
To
That's
all
so
those
cool.
who
All to
asked
those
about
questions.
it.
Okay, I got it.
Yes.
Good.
Lots of other great questions. A few others have said, could we post a list of these cruising guides and the charts that we've used? And yes,
Yeah,
we
that's a good idea,
can
with
we can
links.
do
I
some
think
of the
we have
best
Some of them in our links page, but I haven't updated our links page for a while.
on the
so-
website,
on the website, yeah.
distantshores.ca for Canada. Yeah.
I think there's that up there. So.
Okay. Wow, someone wants to sail to the Antarctic one day. Well, good for you. And that is, when we were building our first boat, Two Step, we had a few people that was their goal, was like the high latitudes cruising, that they just, cold places were the appeal because they were remote and challenging and exciting. So your dream destination, it's totally what's yours.
There's another point to that I'd just bring up next, probably. If you're looking at something really exotic like that, you might want to consider looking at your insurance. So I just sort of think that's a funny picture to have with insurance. We're not really sinking. It's just medium-sized waves out in the Atlantic, in the mid-Atlantic
Yes.
one day. But our insurance company is Pantaenius, Sail and Motor Yacht Insurance. And we've had them for 20 years.
since
Yikes, 20 years. So with
19
3 of our boats.
Yeah.
And, good insurance is... There's no point in having insurance if it isn't real good insurance, if they're going to
not
actually
gonna cover
pay.
you.
Just
Yes.
paying them money doesn't do anything, and having a little piece of paper. And if you're going to go somewhere that they say, well, they don't insure you, so, you'd have to definitely ask, will they insure you for a crossing? Will they insure you going to, say, Haiti or Cuba or some other
Right.
trouble area? So whenever we've made a plan, one of the next steps we do is call Pantaenius or send them an email, and they're super responsive and friendly,
Yes.
and ask them what they have to say about it. And they
Right.
might say like, oh wow, we could do it, but we're going to have to charge you more that year, or yeah, it's fine, or whatever.
Yeah, they'll have certain criteria.
Yeah.
And if your insurance doesn't cover you in a certain area, well, you can check out different insurance things, or
hard to
get a
do, though,
rider. You can get a rider. Like when we
Yeah.
were in, we decided to stay in the Caribbean during hurricane season. We contacted Pantaenius, and there was a hurricane rider or named storm rider that was added
Riders
to
of
our.
the Storm. It's like I heard that song before.
Yes.
Sorry.
Anyway.
No more coffee for me.
You can tell we're very happy with Pantaenius. We've
Yeah.
had them for a long time. We've only had, 2, 3 claims.
They were smallish claims, but the way they paid them so immediately and so easy.
Yeah, and
was-
very
they were
easy
great.
to
So,
read their information and be in touch with.
Anyway,
So,
there are other insurance companies, of course, but the point really is whichever plan you have to make sure that you don't just go there without at least mentioning it to your insurance. And we usually describe in advance, like the year before, when we try to come up with a general plan. And then they might say, like, well, we really think it's best if you don't stop in Haiti, for instance, which I think they said when we were in the Caribbean, right?
I think so.
So then, then we didn't. So that made it easy.
And also, when we were sailing in the Mediterranean, we asked them to provide our insurance documents in several different languages.
Yes.
And they had like one document that had it in most of the Mediterranean languages. So that was very helpful when we'd go into an office where English wasn't spoken.
Yeah.
And all our papers were in,
Yeah.
Arabic or whatever it was at the time. So.
Or the people only spoke Scottish or something and we couldn't understand what the heck they were saying. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
My Scottish roots
Yes,
are
just kidding.
ruffled.
Just kidding. Okay, so we have some more questions there, or should we move on to? I would just talk a little bit about the route, or did you want to do another question?
Yeah, no, we've got lots of questions about specific destinations and charts and things. So those I will go back and answer on the finished product. Carry on.
I'll just look at this chart a little bit. So again, this is the plan I've made for what we'll be doing starting next spring with the new boat. And I'm just going to zoom in a bit. So starting off in England, we're going to go down to the Channel Islands, which gets a chance to go foreign, go to France, do a channel crossing. And this sort of crossing is like, I think it's 70 miles or something like that, and has some weird tides. So a little bit of a challenge there. And then sort of coast hopping and lots of fun places to stop in France. So looking forward to that leg. And then we'll go with that one right down to La Rochelle, where we've never been to. So looking at this coast and planning ahead, and I'd only been to some part of it, this northern part, we thought, what do you do next? So you start to read on the internet, check out other people's accounts of it, look at ratings of the marinas or the anchorages, or figure out if you could do this anchorage and then go to the next anchorage if that'll work.
Right. And I was just going to say, if your dream of cruising to a specific place is really at the dream stage right now, maybe you don't even have a boat, or the boat you have isn't suitable for the kind of long-distance cruising you're dreaming about, there is a lot of research that you can do for free. I mean, fun for free on the internet.
Yeah, you don't need to buy any of the books we're talking about.
No,
And
get
the
a
cruise
feeling
guides
of...
leave them until the last few months before you go. Then you get the latest
You get
updates.
what's up to date. But some of the other resources we use, we're members of the Seven Seas Cruising Association, which is based in Florida, and they have tons of information and bulletins and get-togethers in various places with seminars. We're also members of the Cruising Association in the UK. Again, so many resources and groups and seminars on specific destinations. We made a lot of use of their information when we went through France and also Scandinavia. There's the Ocean Cruising Club. There's all kinds of associations.
Certainly a good one to start with, though, would be Noonsight.
Yes.
Just to see if there's any kind of
Yes.
problems, and they usually have port overviews,
Yeah.
idea if the ports are any good.
And
So-
now there's so many vlogs and blogs and so on about specific things. So
Yeah.
find ones where people are sailing in or to the place that you wish to go, and then have a similar budget
Yeah, I
and
was gonna say
cruising
a similar
style.
because if they cruise on a big boat, then they'll be looking for bigger marinas or bigger anchorages, or they'll have a different kind of budget or
Right.
a different cruise speed. Like
Yeah.
looking back at my chart here again, this next leg, once we got to La Rochelle, when I looked into it, there weren't really good anchorages on this next bit of coast just to the south of La Rochelle. So I thought, well, in that case, we'll probably just jump straight to this northern Spanish coast. We've never been there either. And then I looked around and found which of the different anchorages looked nice. So we'll make this means we get to do a passage. I can't remember what this is. It's about 100 miles or something like that, I think. So 100 and something. So we'll do it like as an overnight. And that way we can do some coast hopping and plan. That'll be pretty easy to do. But then we get to do one overnight just to sort of knock off some miles. Or since we'll have people on board, it's a chance for people to get a practice in at an overnight. And then we go along this coast, and I've drawn it as a straight line just to get the number of miles. But we'll probably divide it up into for us, it's sort of 30, 40 miles a day is quite comfy. 50 miles is relatively easy if you've got reasonable wind. And then we can just plan stops along there, but this coast has a bunch of pretty stops. And then as you get past La Coruña into Spain, here you've got the Rias, and we've been into only one of these years ago.
Yes, so
we're looking forward
to that cruise.
So now my plan would be to try to find more resources on those areas to try to pick some of the best in advance.
Right.
To get an idea where we'll stop.
And we also, we really like the rough guides, but there's all kinds of different travel guides, not for sailors, but for attractions ashore. Because for us, it's the traveling. We like to sail to places, we love being on the boat, but ultimately it's about what interesting things are there to see and do. So once we figured out the time of year and the route that we're taking on the way to somewhere else, we'll get our rough guides or photos or whatever and find out, well, are there any festivals or what are the attractions that we might want to spend time on? And, you know, we have friends that like don't care about that at all. All they want to do is sail, and it's your cruise. If that's what you want to do, like, you've got to do it, because it's all about fulfilling your dream, not what everybody else is doing.
That's another great thing about the cruising guide. So one of the, which one would we be using here? The Cruising Companion to the Solent and France West Coast and all these ones. For that area around France, they're written by such a knowledgeable fellow that he's done it so many times, and he knows, he'll recommend some of the favorite little restaurants and some of the best anchorages. So we start with that book, and then if we're going to spend a little longer, then we'll get a rough guide as well. And because we're filming for the television show, then we're doing a bit more in-depth research than most people. So I'll go back to the map. So then continuing along this, again, I'm just drawing that for now I'm just planning that we're going to make this number of miles. But with this leg, we wanted to do it in something like 10, 12 days and get from La Rochelle all the way to Lisbon. So that gives us a little bit in France, a little bit in the Spanish coast with the Rias, and then the coast of Portugal, which gets to go to see Porto, which we haven't been to, which should be very nice, and Lisbon, Cascais, which we have. Right. So that way we'll plan some other destinations and try and plan sort of hops. Right. So that we won't be much in the way of rough, tough offshore stuff. We can watch for weather and maybe make a big jump if we get stormbound for a few days.
Right. And I've got Sailing Epoch here said, would you consider taking crew on board? And that is very much part of our plan for the new boat. Yeah. For the last few years, just for a few weeks a year, we have done sail training weeks, which we call sail away weeks. Yeah. And we'll have people on board that are either new to sailing and want to get an introduction to sailing, or they've done a lot of sailing but they've never sailed in the tropics, or they want to build their offshore experience. And so part of this route that we've planned out, we've made time to do that, and we've, as Paul's explaining, we've considering, you know, this route would be good for someone who wants to build their offshore experience. We'll do a little bit of coastal cruising, but then planning some offshore jumps too. So it's a really good way to build up that experience. And of course, because we're on board, you know, we're there to help with that. And
that's really the plan with the new boat, is that we'd have enough space to have people come on board and build skills that way. And then we'll choose the passages to go with the weather and the time we have and the people on board. Right. And those kind of coastal ones, again, we'll do that. We'll also, the next one we were planning, once we get to Gibraltar there, down there in the bottom, that's Gibraltar. So if you click on this map, you get, no picture. No picture.
Yeah, all this route is on the Distant Shores website.
Yeah, I've put up the week there, so the Sail Away Weeks at distantshores.ca, and click Sail Away Weeks. So we're going to just pop into the Med a little bit. I think, are those weeks already all booked up, actually?
I think they are,
so.
Yes.
Oh, anyway.
But we love the Mediterranean. If you follow our TV show, you'll see we shot a lot of shows there. And actually, I forgot to mention that every week that we do a Q&A, we do a draw. And we take the names of all of you who have very kindly commented, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. It's so great to have you here live. And we'll do a draw for the Distant Shores box set.
Don't complain that it's on DVD, because it also comes with downloadables. So you can, in high definition downloads.
But there are 130 DVDs.
130,
Or sorry, 130
that would
episodes.
be a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah, I wouldn't be lifting. 26 DVDs with 130 episodes on sailing all kinds of the world's best cruising destinations: the Med, Caribbean, Scandinavia, etc. So we'll be drawing for that, and also some of our single seasons.
So then for the next leg, again, this is a different kind of plan. Now that we're going to leave the place where there's a lot of easy stops, leaving Gibraltar, we're going to go down the Moroccan coast there, and there's Rabat just partway down. So that's about a nice, easy sort of overnight. We did it that way from Gibraltar overnight, and then went into Rabat. And then we might go down, I can't remember where the next one is, Agadir, or maybe around the corner. So either one or two of these ports, but in this case now we're going to add in a couple of overnights. So that'll be sort of a 2 to 3 day offshore. And I sort of look at that as the next level of planning a passage, that you're ready to do passages that are 400 or 500 miles long.
Yeah.
So a lot
and
more
Mike
challenging.
Adamski says, "Shh, don't tell anyone about Sailaway Weeks. I haven't booked my cabin yet." Well,
Oops,
hope
we
to
are
have
running
you
out.
aboard,
Good.
Mike.
We hope so.
And hello to the crew of Yacht Ruby Rose. They also have a Southerly and a great YouTube channel.
Yeah,
So
hey
check out
guys. Oh,
Sailing
great.
Yacht Ruby Rose. Beautiful stuff, and they're doing a lot of great Q&As as well. So welcome, guys.
Great to
And,
have you there.
Oh, and thanks, Paul Moore. That great DVDs and shows on there. We watched them many times. Oh, great. Well, that's what we hope, that they'll be inspiring and good resources just to whet your appetite if you're planning a trip to any of the destinations that we've filmed in. So, hey, great. So, lots of nice comments. Thanks, guys. And we'll be doing a draw at the end of the Q&A.
So that's this next leg as we went down the Moroccan coast. I wish I could remember that next port. When I haven't been to a place, I can't always remember it. I think it's Agadir, just there. So we may stop 2 stops in Morocco on that leg, and kind of an offshore test one. And then the next leg is our biggest leg that we have up as a sail away week, and it's basically crossing the whole Atlantic. So it needs almost a month to do it.
Yeah.
It's expensive. It has to cost a lot for us to do the crossing and do the cruise
And
and
the
everything.
food and
so.
everything for that time, but it's
But,
a fantastic experience.
what
And
we-
while you have that wide shot, could you go
Yeah.
back to that wide shot? I realized
Oops.
we,
It's got Antarctica.
Yeah.
There you go. There's Antarctica right there.
Yeah.
So.
well, I think we missed a step. We meant to say that we start with the end goal in mind. So for us, with the new boat, we want to take it through the Panama Canal and into the South Pacific and
Right.
start a whole new cruising area. So we started with that. Like, what is the best time of year to go through the Panama Canal? You know, how do you book far ahead? Like, how does all that work? And then what are the sailing seasons for making passages in the South Pacific? And we worked back from that and from when our new boat is available.
It's kind of like a Chinese puzzle in some ways, that you have to try to,
You start
by having
with
the
and that.
end and then try to go back and say, well, this would work, and we can't, because we don't want to cross the Atlantic in the middle of the winter, like from Dusseldorf.
Yeah.
Because if you could, in February, somehow splash the brand new boat and then jump straight through the Panama, so I was like, okay, that's not going to work.
No.
So the goal here is to get here by sort of April, May kind of time frame.
That's right, because the time
maybe
of
the
year,
later.
again, this was another determining factor.
Yeah.
The time of year to cross the Atlantic from the Europe-African side of the Atlantic is in the autumn and early winter, when there's no hurricane.
Yeah.
It's not hurricane season, the trade winds have settled in, and most people leave from the Canary Islands in November, so they get to the Caribbean before Christmas, and then they have the whole winter there. But we've had friends that have done the crossing in January and February, and it's very nice time
Yeah,
of
we
year
did it
to
in
do
January
that.
once.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, arrived in Antigua,
Yeah.
so
Had New Year's at sea,
yeah.
and Christmas we did one night.
Christmas was just,
Yeah, just did that.
just on the edge of
Yeah.
it.
We've
So-
done 7 transatlantic crossings, so we know the Atlantic pretty well now, we feel, although it always has surprises. And so we're really looking forward to a whole new chapter for Distant Shores, sailing and filming for the TV series in South Pacific destinations.
Yeah, so this crossing, we're going to do it. Another thing about the planning here, if you don't have quite as much time, I guess you can rush this a little bit and just go straight from the Canaries there and just jump all the way, miss the Cape Verdes and jump all the way to the Caribbean. But and we've done that a couple times. But this time we thought, or last time we did it, we stopped in Cape Verde, and we thought, well, that's great. You take 800 miles, which takes us about 4.5, 5 days with our boat, and if presuming reasonable winds, and then you've got a couple of days off to sort of have a dinner ashore
and we had
and explore Cape Verde for the.
Wow, it was amazing.
So we're going to do that again this time too.
We had 2 friends on board who were new to sailing our boat, and one friend who was on last week's Q&A, Doug Kimberly, who was pretty new to sailing. He'd done a lot of training.
And he'd done an overnight.
But he hadn't done
and longer passages than that. So
right.
So that's another reason we thought this time, if we're going to have guests on board, we can do first of all an overnight in the Canaries, then so one overnight from Lanzarote to Gran Canaria, then a 5-day passage to the Cape Verde, and then a probably 12, 13 days passage across.
Right.
So,
but that 5-day passage to Cape Verde, it was good. It just got everyone in the rhythm. It was kind of nice for, our friends if they weren't, feeling good about it or up to it, which wasn't at all the case. Like it wasn't even an issue.
No.
There was a chance to bail before you head out into the middle of the Atlantic for, a couple of weeks almost. And so we really liked that. And also if there's any, issues come up with the boat, it's a chance one more chance to shake it out.
It's a fun way to, that way you really get to do 2 passages, really.
Yes, it's true. And the Cape Verde Islands, you probably, you might not go there otherwise, and it's fascinating. And
it was well worth
that's a great thing about cruising. You get to places that, just are off the beaten path. And you get to see how friendly the world is in all these different places. Because you watch the news, and the world does not feel like a friendly place. But really, there are so many fantastic people that when you meet one-on-one and you get to understand each other's cultures, it just helps to make the world a better place because we all start to understand one another. And I'm getting poetic. Anyway,
back to business. And then across the Atlantic, whoops, I zoomed out to Antarctica again. And then across to Antigua is the plan. And then, obviously, I haven't made a direct waypoint to Panama. Now, this is because of a destination. We totally love going to the Bahamas, and if we're anywhere near it, we're going to make a stop in the Bahamas. Sorry, those weeks have already booked up. But we do have British Virgin Islands going to the Turks and Caicos. That'll be a fun passage. That's another of those kind of passages where we'll do a couple days in the BVI. Then I think it'll sort of be like 3 days or so, 2.5 to 3 days offshore, and then arrive in the Turks. And the Turks are a lot like the Bahamas, so we'll cruise there a few days, and that'll be a fun passage too. And then from there, we're going to go down to Panama. And that'll be basically 1 year. And it gets us in Panama about the right time, maybe a month or 2 later than what some people would do, but had to get the Bahamas in.
Yes.
Any more questions there?
Someone says, when you are provisioning for an ocean crossing, how do you shop and what mix of supplies do you buy? That's from Global Exploring. I will not have electric refrigeration, so if you have some suggestions, it would be appreciated. I'm going to do a whole Q&A about that because it is, a topic that we've done a lot.
Well, also we did, our first boat, which we built ourselves, was only 37 feet. And she didn't have refrigeration. We did 3-year cruise where we were on the boat for 3 whole years and didn't go back to Canada, and didn't even return home. And she did not have refrigeration. So we lived 3 years just looking after food with just occasionally getting a block of ice.
Yes.
Because you couldn't even get it all that often.
Right.
So we have some good hints on that we'll put up, some resources for that.
Yes, and I've done a lot of blogs on that topic on the distantshores.ca website.
Yeah.
And we do have an ebook on provisioning, and I'll put a link up to that. We need to do a landing page for that.
Last week we said, would anybody like it, they could send us an email. So please don't, because we got about 150 emails.
So
overwhelmed
we'll set up
an
auto response.
Yeah, we'll set up a response.
Sorry about that, Dawn.
She's probably cringing while I write this.
Yeah, so we have lots of resources on provisioning.
Now, just looking at the slide in the background, the reason I have this up, if anyone recognizes the Prudential logo there, that's the Rock of Gibraltar in the background. And I put it up because you asked about provisioning, and it's one of those nice places that we have as usually a waypoint, because it's super great to do provisioning. You can get all the fun British stuff that we know. We know how to work the place because we've been there before.
Right.
And it's
So
just
that's
provisioning,
another-
make a stop, and then we do a big bunch of provisioning in places like
Yeah,
that.
that's another determining factor when you're working out your itinerary, or when we are too. And you get that information from other sailors' blogs, from the cruising guides, from the cruising associations you might choose to be a member of. And, so we plan those stops and think about how long we're going to be away from
So that's
good resources.
Yeah, and that's Gibraltar there, right at the mouth of the Mediterranean. So the plan there is that we'd stop in at Gibraltar and then hop down the coast, probably essentially not provisioning in Morocco, just buying vegetables.
Yeah,
Although
just
they've got
fresh produce.
They've got good French grocery stores, but they're not a match for big Gibraltar with all
And
of
even the
its-
south coast of Spain,
Yeah,
over
that's
at,
great too. The
La
south coast of
Línea
Spain, La Línea, you could stop there too. So, so we kind of plan the hot spots that we know are going to be great for provisioning,
Yes,
right? Like the
yeah.
Canaries is brilliant. So, but
Yeah.
we haven't got there yet. So, we'll leave Gibraltar and then that passage to the Canaries, and then we can provision big time there. And again, in the Cape Verde, we'll just get vegetables and
Yes.
not plan on too
Right.
much else.
And they have, the market there is really great too. There's
Yeah,
a
for the
super
fresh veg.
seafood market too.
Oh, that's
Yum.
going to be great. All the fresh stuff, absolutely. So, so there's some provisioning answers. What else do I have? I should watch. Why don't I play a little movie? We'll take not a break, but just a little interlude here. I've got one of our doing the passage Gibraltar to Morocco. This just kind of gives you a little bit of a feeling for that coast and that passage that we did, which was, I guess, about a little bit more than an overnight, and then arrive in Rabat. Gonna work. Cool, it's not gonna work. Isn't that fun?
Okay, stand
This
by.
is how fun all
I'll
this
answer
stuff
some
is.
questions while you're
Loop,
sorting
jump,
the tech.
hold, start, loop. Here we go. Why doesn't it work?
Evans Fortune, do you have an exercise plan on long passages? Yes, we do actually. But it's surprising how much exercise you get just because the motion of the boat is constant and you're constantly balancing. But we do squats and, push-ups, not on the cabin sole, but against things. And I do a lot of stretching and jumping around, listening to music on my watches. And as soon as we get to shore, we really make an effort to do a lot of walking. And you do that anyway with the boat because you don't have a car. So you end up walking a lot and carrying a lot of things. So weight bearing
That's all
is
fine
good.
for when you're in port. It's those long passages is a bit
passages.
harder if the boat is, any kind of boat on
Yeah.
the big ocean seas. I don't have any big ocean sea shots.
Yeah.
But on sort of big passages where you can't go up on the foredeck and do workouts and stuff because you're bouncing around a little bit. That is a little bit harder to stay exercised.
And when you
We fall into position when the pilot boat arrives, and it takes about 10 minutes to motor up the river to the Beauregreg Marina. On the right side of the river is Morocco's capital city, Rabat, which means fortress. To the left is the town of Saleh, where the marina is located. There have been many cultural influences over the centuries, from Phoenician, Berber, Andalusian, and French. First stop is the customs dock, and clearing in turns out to be quite a procedure. If you have any pets like the boats with us, you must take them ashore while the drug sniffer dog goes through your boat. Boris is thorough but friendly, as are the officers that come on board. And then there are mountains of forms to fill out.
Well, an hour and a half since we got to the breakwell, we've come in and I've got lots of forms to fill out.
landing cards to fill out, plus paperwork for the capitainier or for the marina staff.
Some in French, none thankfully in Arabic, and some with English and French. Because Morocco is a former French colony, so we can use our terrible French and see if we can confuse them that way.
There's always lots of paperwork to do when you come into a new country, but it's fun.
We fall into position when the pilot
Hello,
boat
back to right brain stuff was, we've just seen Morocco there, but asking about once we get to the Pacific, then what and where. Still working that out, so stay tuned. All new for us.
We're looking at planning the first passages across to Galapagos and the Marquesas, and May put them up on the website in probably a couple months, not right away. I think we try not to plan too far in advance. It's a little hard sometimes to know
Yeah.
where you're going to be at that stage. I know some people who've done a real comprehensive cruise plan, maybe 2 years in advance. They've got each anchorage they're going to go to and things they're going to see, and then the next day on somewhere else. So we always put in a bunch of spare days. That way, if we do get delayed by something, the spare days to take up the slack, and we're
That's
still
right,
generally
'cause you
doing
don't
what
want to
we
get
hope.
pressured by not, fulfilling your schedule or your goals, because you've got to be flexible when cruising, because things break and it takes a while to get parts, and the weather can hold you up. So we've learned over the years, how much time to build in for things like that. And we've also learned the skills of like how to get things done in foreign places and what resources to use to get help to expedite parts if we need it to keep
A
going.
few words of the foreign language, whatever that language
yeah.
is, really goes a long way. I mean, I know if you show up in an English-speaking country, you don't get much credit for speaking English. But if you show up in an Arabic country and you can say a few words, if you learn 5
Numbers.
words, well, I learned the numbers too. But if you just learn a few words, even just salam alaikum, and I mean, you just have to say a few things, and people are so excited and happy, and suddenly things get easier. Like the customs
Yes.
are more friendly.
They try
because you
harder
say
to
hello, and you're not
you're
trying to tell
respectful.
them their business. You're trying to be respectful and understanding, and
Yeah.
so that kind of thing
And-
really helps.
And we carry a parts manual for like just about everything on our boat.
Yeah.
So if we're in a place and we need a complicated part, we can just take the manual in and point to the picture, or now online,
Yeah, now
there's
online.
PDFs.
Order it.
Yeah.
Or just order the part, but we do carry a lot of parts, so we don't get delayed. So
Right, yes.
especially engine parts, we have a big stock
Right.
of engine parts and other
Mm-hmm.
bits and pieces for the boat. So when we have run into mechanical problems, they rarely delay us.
That's right. And because we built our first boat, we both have a lot of skills, Paul especially with the diesel engine and, just fixing
Yeah,
stuff.
rigging and fiberglass and woodwork and bits and pieces, plumbing, and I've done
Getting
all of that
creative
stuff.
on, jury rigging things.
Learning a little bit of that will help you to make your cruise plan work too and be less stressful. Because when you get to some place, it's hard to understand when you if you've got a boat at home near your house, then you probably know a mechanic. The mechanic is a great guy. He always does everything for
Yeah.
you. And then when you've gone away, suddenly you don't know who's a good mechanic. And
Right.
before you know it, you're paying a lot of money to some guy who doesn't know what the heck he's doing.
Right. So you got to
Very
check with
disappointing.
the cruisers that know the area and the people
Or learn enough to at least be able to look
Yeah.
over his shoulder and understand if he's any good. So.
Right. A couple of questions. We haven't had this before is, how do you clear into customs? What to expect when you get, and again, that's another determining factor for your cruise itinerary, is you check with the cruising guides or you go to the boat clear-in procedure search for the country that you're looking under customs and immigration.
Noonside can have that too.
Noonside is
Noonside
a,
is a good.
is a
and
good
they'll have
resource.
usually got updates on what's the right thing to do also.
Right, so they'll tell you have to have your ship's papers and passports for everyone on board. Depending on the country of your crew, they may need a visa, so you have to find that out ahead of time and organize that.
Yeah, like you can't just show up in the States now from lots of countries without a visa. So,
Right.
having said that, I remember that one of the last times we did show up in the States was hilarious. We came to Beaufort from the Bahamas, which is
yeah.
kind of a long way. I guess it's 4 days offshore or something. And we get to Beaufort, and when you get there, they don't know you're there. So you call on the radio and say, we want to go to the
Check in.
marina and we want to check in. And they say, okay, well, you can come in then, and you'll call the Coast Guard, and they'll probably send somebody down, a customs guy. So.
And you're not allowed to bring meat, fresh meat and fresh vegetables into the U.S. from
Yeah.
countries outside.
That's right. So they told us that, and then we called the guy in customs, and he said he'll be around in a little while. And did we know we weren't allowed to bring any meat in and vegetables? So then about 2 hours later, this
Yeah.
guy comes down the dock with all of his gun and sticks and paperwork and binders and everything. And the first thing he says is, "Did you eat your vegetables?" So
Oh,
yeah,
he's-
okay.
yes.
Very good. See the
But-
priorities.
Yes. No, but he was very friendly
Yeah,
about it.
super.
And actually, the marina staff said, "Okay, you've got 2 hours. Eat your vegetables.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
had a
eat
steak.
your-"
It
we
was
had
a
steak
big-
and eggs. We finished
It
the
was a
steak
huge breakfast.
because we hadn't planned to pull into Beaufort. We were going to go up to New York, but we got headwinds, and we thought, okay, let's jump in at Beaufort. And yeah, so we had a huge breakfast, and he was cool with that, just as long as we didn't have it. When
They're
he
usually
showed up.
really nice. Like
Yeah,
I think if you travel normally on planes, you tend to get off with 180 or 280 other people, and suddenly, you're in a massive lineup, and they're trying to get you through fast, fast, fast. And in this case, you wander into a little office, and the guy probably hasn't had a customer for an hour or so. Maybe a day or so in some cases,
Yeah.
or maybe there's a few people lined up, but it's not like the airport scene. And they're really nice. And
And
you
they're
say,
the
"Oh,
first
I'm
people
looking.
you meet in a
I'm
new
so
country."
excited." I always say, "I'm looking at your beautiful island was great as we came over the sun came up as we approached St. Lucia as we're coming into
Yeah.
port on your gorgeous island, and it's nice to be here." And,
Yes.
and suddenly
And that's
they're
very
all
sincere after an ocean crossing.
Yeah, being sincere. That's true. Like I said, I was really seasick.
Yeah, yeah.
no.
Well, Mike Adamski said it's not just fresh meat that's prohibited in the U.S. Cured meats like salmon, etc., are also forbidden. Yes, you're right. There's a whole list, and again, that's on Noon's site
Yeah.
or the Customs and Immigration. Search
Yeah.
on that.
And a lot of countries, other countries, that's the hardest thing to keep up with, because what's even printed in a guide will have already changed, won't it, by the time you get there?
Yes, yeah. Okay, yeah. Lots of questions about the new boat. We'll do a little bit of an update at the end of the Q&A about, where we are with the new boat and what's happening and what
Yeah.
we're doing with it. Thank you, though, for those questions. I got a few people from Portugal today. Hey, guys, we love Portugal. I've got my
Bom dia.
Portuguese. Yes.
Boa tarde.
Boa tarde. It's
Yeah,
boa
boa
tarde.
tarde.
There, yeah.
Sorry,
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, you should say your famous.
Oh, my Portuguese phrase. This will make you guys laugh. So I go, Meu Deus, que vai comer todos os comidos, which is Portuguese for my God, who's going to eat all this food? And that's surprisingly useful when you get to Portugal.
'Cause
You think you won't need
People
that.
just want to feed you,
So nice
and they
people.
just crack up whenever he says that. So we always try to learn a few kind of phrases like that that are
Yeah,
appreciated.
Get a grin when you say them. So a good way to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't say my French one probably anyway.
No.
That's rude. A little bit rude, but they laugh. So
Yeah.
my goal is to amuse people in various languages. So anywhere from 10, 20 to 50 or even 100 words, and you can get so much, so far with it, and get in trouble too, probably.
Yeah. Well, someone had a question about boat insurance, and we did cover that a little bit earlier. For the Transatlantic Crossing, you have to have at least 3 people, at least this is in general, and for Pantaenius that we deal with, and one person has to have done a crossing before.
Not be the captain. You would have
Yeah.
to have done a crossing. So
Right.
having done it as a crew, now you've crossed an ocean, you can be a captain on a
Yeah,
crossing.
yeah.
So
But-
I think that's kind of typical, isn't it?
Right.
But three really is a safe number. So
You
It's
get
a
lots
good
of
idea.
sleep, and
Yeah.
there's people to help out and people for company. We've done many crossings with just the 2 of us, and it's great because we're not trying to fit to other people's schedule. We can just go when we want to go. But it is a endurance test. We hardly see each other, and
Yeah,
it can get
it's
very
harder
tiring.
work.
So
And then we've done one crossing with a third person, and then we've done two other crossings with 2 extra people, and then it becomes a lot more of a party. It's really fun.
yeah.
So
it
this
is.
next one, we're going to have 4 guests as well on the boat. So
Right.
there'll be
Yeah.
6 of us all together, plenty of room, and it'll be quite a party, I think. So.
Yes, yeah,
Wow, it's
always
pouring
a
rain,
good
look at
time.
that.
Yeah, it's
Bucketing
like
rain
tropical
outside.
downpour, although we're not in the tropics. But yeah, okay, well, let's carry on. And thanks everybody for being here and for questions. And there will be, the recording will be left up. So if you missed an earlier part or any of our previous ones, we did one on ocean sailing last week and the week before about offshore and also ocean. So, there's more information on that in those as well. And if you have time and a good cup of coffee or your afternoon cocktail.
glass of wine.
Yes, glass of wine. Little appetizer to go with it. Put your feet up and catch those.
Or check out some of our passages, because we have quite a lot of passaging videos that we've got up in recent days too, so including that crossing in the Cape Verde and other ones.
Yes, yeah.
Them up on YouTube as well as on Vimeo. So.
Right. So I think we got to, you were talking about the Bahamas. So again, it's a real detour, but we love the Bahamas. So we've added it into our itinerary. And sorry, I can't remember the name, but somebody was asking earlier why such a short trip into the Mediterranean. Well, we spent 9, 10 seasons in the Med.
Let's not get into it. An
Yeah.
embarrassingly long time in
Yes.
the Mediterranean. We went everywhere in the Med.
Yeah.
We love it so much.
Yeah, and
We got to
got
Istanbul. We
all
went to
kinds
Israel.
of,
We went to the Croatia. We did Venice,
Yeah.
Spain, and Tunisia, and Turkey, and Greece. And we spent
We've got
a couple of seasons in Greece. We totally loved the Med. So this was really just a quick hop in because some of the guests that we'd had came on the boat and we
Yeah.
did these sailing weeks last winter,
Right.
had expressed interest in doing the Med. So we
Right.
thought it'd be fun to revisit that just briefly. So.
Yeah. So, for example, season
Yeah.
5, there's 13 episodes where we're sailing in the Med and then do a crossing to the Caribbean. That was on our Southerly 42. We've got
season
shows
6.
on, cruising in Northern Europe, Scotland, Ireland, Norway, all kinds of shows. And we're going to be doing a draw from the names in the comments at the end of the Q&A if you've just popped in now. So please feel free to comment and question, and your name will be put in a draw for one of the DVDs and downloads.
Yep, cool. Yeah, so we did get through to the Bahamas. Oops, I left my insurance slide out. Yeah, so back to the cruise planning again. This is something we haven't done. We've done this passage from the Virgin Islands and across, from the Virgins down to the Turks and Caicos, and that was a really nice passage, actually. I've just put that, it's a new passage I just put up on our website. We didn't have that as an optional passage, but we just put it on. And we'll stay a couple days in the Virgins, and then it'll be about 3 days or so, 2.5, 3 days to the Turks. And then the Turks are really gorgeous, so it should be really pretty. We really liked those islands. They're really like the Bahamas. They deserve to be
Yeah.
part of the Bahamas geographically. So look at the banks there. Isn't that incredible?
All that gorgeous shallow water. And
Yeah, so
the
in reality,
diving
we'll
and
go in the
reefs are
back.
amazing.
We'll go in the back here and go through some of this shallow water and explore in there. So that'll be fun. And then the next leg, which is already full, we're going to go into the Bahamas. And then from there, we're going to just sail ourselves this corner down to Panama. So that's the passage we've never done, so that'll be exciting. A little bit of upwind, and probably a bit of a roughy, toughy, bouncy
Yes.
passage. So we're just going to do that on our own, I think, without...
Yeah, just get there.
Yeah, just get there. And then that gets us to the sandblast in Panama, and then that'll be about a year and a bit after getting the new boat, and then we'll head off into the Pacific after that. And I've just started planning that, so I haven't put anything up on the
Right.
website yet, but
Right.
it's very fun and exciting to read all these books. So we've got, this is a fun one, RCC again. I think I mentioned RCC, but a Pacific Crossing Guide. So that's kind of fun. So we've
Yeah.
been reading that and looking at our coffee table to learn the destinations and reading other blogs and highlights people.
Yeah,
places.
and some of the best way to get information is if you have a friend at your yacht club or that has experience, to buy them a drink or have them over and just ask them. I mean, they have information to share, and sailors love to be with other
I thought you were going
sailors.
to say they love to drink.
Well,
Yeah.
there's that too. But when we were, last in the Caribbean, we met a lot of people who had cruised in the South Pacific. So we would always try and get together with them and just ask them lots of questions.
Yes.
And they would go over their cruise guides and loan us their cruise guides so we could take notes. And
And he'd
it
done
just-
a presentation that we...
that was
got to.
Renee
That
in
was Renee,
St. Martin. Yeah, he works at
Island
Island
Water
Waterworld.
Yeah.
He and
He was a
Cheryl.
font of information.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, there are other people too that
Oh,
we
sure.
have talked to, and blogs that we look at of very experienced sailors, and vlogs. Of course, there's a lot now these days, which is great. There's just so many resources now. When we first started cruising, there was just books and, boat shows, seminars. Oh, there's another resource that's really good. We teach boat shows, seminars, but there's lots of people that have so much information to share. So you get a presentation and then the opportunity to ask questions and chat later after the seminars. So, you know, you can just have so much fun for a really long time without even going cruising, just planning your dream cruise. I mean, we did a lot of dreaming.
Yeah, sure.
And then we chartered in the British Virgin Islands to, you know, to see if we liked it. And of course, we loved it.
Yeah, the Virgins, so you have to say, if you haven't done any
Yeah.
real cruising or haven't been tropical, we always plan some time in the Virgins because we love taking people there and just wowing them with how amazing the cruising life is. I always say the Virgins are the secret weapon. If your spouse, your partner, because often it's not a husband,
Yeah.
it's a wife or whatever,
Yeah.
or husband, could be, whoever is a little resistant to the cruising dream, take them to the Virgin Islands.
Yeah,
It's
it worked for me. I was
Yeah.
hesitant, and Paul totally won me over
Yeah.
by taking me sailing in the British Virgin Islands. In fact, we got engaged there.
Oh, that's so
So,
romantic.
woo.
That's a beautiful. The
And we
islands are
still love
gorgeous, and in the winter. So we're doing a couple of weeks. They're half full up on our website for those ones, but cabin, one of those nice aft cabins for a romantic. Where's that aft cabin? Here, we're just going to quickly take a tour of the boat again. That's the forward cabin.
Yeah, people
then
were
there's a
asking
little
about
bunk
the new
cabin.
boat. Yes.
And these are on a similar. The boat interior will be like this, and then that is the big, beautiful aft cabin. So
Yes.
we've
yeah.
got those up as sail away weeks. There's a couple there.
And we really have a lot of fun doing them. We're still very good friends with everyone that's done a sail away week with us, and it's so great for us to, keep in touch and see what they're doing. We've just had a few from last
Yeah.
winter that have bought new boats and
Yeah, that's very exciting.
have retired and are starting their dream cruise. Others that were, not sure if they were interested in sailing but thought it looked great, and
Yeah.
now they're doing more training and thinking of
Well,
buying
yeah,
a boat.
we had a chap, I guess, 2 years ago.
Oh, Yarrick?
Yeah, Yarrick. Yeah, we
Yeah.
2 years ago we'd sailed into the Cape Verde, and there was this chap there, and he said, "Hey," and he had come with us. He had not even tried sailing,
No,
and
he-
to try it out.
He said before, he thought he might like it, but
Yeah.
before he invested in the whole lifestyle, bought a boat,
Yeah.
he wanted to try it out. So he came with us, and we had 2 other guests.
And he was a spectacularly good sport. He was really great and always cheerful and always ready to do
Yeah.
everything. And he did enjoy it, and it was all new for him. And then he said, when he left, he said, "I'm not very good at writing. You probably won't hear from me."
Yeah, which we
might
didn't.
might send an email once in a while. So, but so we didn't hear from him. And this was like 6 years, 7
Yeah,
years
so it
later,
must have
wasn't
been-
it?
It wasn't 2 years ago.
So
it
it
was
was
6 years
2009.
ago.
No,
Yeah.
but 2009. And then in
2
2
years
years
ago,
ago,
right.
we climb onto the dock and walk down the dock in the
In
Cape Verde Islands.
Mindelo.
In Mindelo,
Oh, yeah.
off the coast of Africa. And Yarrick walks down the dock. "Hey, I got my boat here. I got into cruising. I bought a
was
boat. I'm sailing around the world."
single-handed.
He's single-handed.
Across the ocean, was on his way
So
back.
he's one of our big success
Yes,
stories. So
yes.
it's nice to see that we could help people get into it
Yeah.
and show them the lifestyle there in the British
Right,
Virgin
and
Islands.
at all levels, we had
Yeah.
a few women and men who were anxious about the fact they got seasick and didn't think the cruising life would be for them. But Paul's an expert at
I'm an expert at overcoming
seasickness. And so, we showed them a lot of things that you can do to prepare and get your body used to the motion before you really start sailing hard. And it changed their lives. They just, it's like, oh my gosh, I can get over this and I can sail now. So,
Yeah,
yes. I'll have to do some blogs on that.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's see.
Is it time to do a draw, do you think?
Well,
It's 12 o'clock. So
we've got, people wanted to learn a little more about the boats. So we've shown the interior.
I don't think do I have any exterior shots. Let me just see.
But if you check our Facebook page, Distant Shores TV, we are we're putting up pictures now and again of, like, they've just started laying up the hull, and so there's shots of that. And the boat is another Southerly, but Southerly has been acquired by the Discovery Yachts Group, so it's a new manufacturer. But they build beautiful boats, and we're really enjoying working with the team there. And some of the people are former Southerly employees, so it's a really nice synergy there. And the boat has a retractable keel,
And we love that because it's a go-anywhere cruising boat. We can poke around in the shallow waters of the Bahamas, through the French canals, in the little tiny canals, and yet we can cross oceans with it too, because when we put that big heavy keel that weighs as much as an automobile down, it's 10-foot draft. So it's a deep keel boat as well as a shallow draft boat. And for us, it just, it's opened so many ways to explore. And
it's
that's
an expensive boat.
That's what we
like.
like.
It's a pricey boat, but it's definitely our dream boat. And there's a few pictures of it. I don't have a lot up on the website right now, but I'm going to be putting some more up in a few days.
We live aboard about 8 months of the year, and we have a home base up on the Lake Simcoe on the Trent Severn Waterway, about an hour north of Toronto. That's where we are today, in the Shard Multimedia Studio. And we're looking out the window at the water, and
Teeming,
boats are
pouring
going by, and it's pouring rain.
Yeah.
But it's, a sailing neighborhood. So we're at home while we're at home too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you find that you compromise any sailing with the swing keel? Well, no, we can sail the boat like a dinghy and change the
The
center
boat
of
has
effort.
the only if there's a compromise, it's a bit heavier boat, because the
that's
keel
true,
has
yeah.
to be a little heavier, and some of the weight is in the center plate. So she's a heavier boat, but we found she's capable of a good turn of speed, and with a tall mast, she's capable of doing pretty good speeds in light wind. And probably, the real problem with the swing keel, not the real problem, but it is a system that needs maintenance. So it is another thing that you have to maintain. But it buys us so much. The places we can get to, that really works well for us. But it is a system. We replaced, you top up the hydraulic fluid, just check it once a year. We actually didn't really top it up. And then replace the pennant that lifts it after 5 years. So not a lot of maintenance, but it is another system. But the boat draws 10 feet, and that's the big plus. You go upwind really well. She points better than, really better than most boats. And most boats that draw a shallowish 6-foot draft in that size would be much not so good.
Yeah. No, we really like them. There was another question about the keel. Oh, do you navigate mainly only by electronic chart system, plotter, or paper charts? And do you buy paper pilot books for the major ports areas you visit? That's from Floris Zoet, if I've saying that right.
Yeah, so we do navigate almost exclusively electronically, but we do carry main paper charts. We carry only a few large-scale paper charts usually, and then by carrying these type of cruising guides, so like this one here has zoomed in chartlets of every single anchorage and every single harbor you're going to go into. So this basically gives you all the detail, and then you've got the big chart in case you had a problem with something else. But realistically, heck, I've got my Navionics charts are on my phone. So
Right, and also our iPad.
So where are we there? Yeah, so the Navionics apps are so inexpensive, and you can get the app. I've got the charts for practically everything, and you can load them all on the phone, and they don't need to be on the internet. You go on the internet, you load the charts, they stay there for I don't know how long, forever, I think.
Yeah, and it's very fun when we get together with, cruisers that we're asking questions about places to sail, because they start talking about all these places that we don't know, so we can pull out the phone and there's the chart, and we'll just mark the
So
waypoints.
it's like, oh, there's the waypoints, there's the chart,
anchorage.
and they'll say like, oh yeah, we went right in here, and
You had that out last night. We were chatting with some folks at the yacht club.
It's got every piece of detail on the phone, and it's a total separate backup navigation system.
Yeah, and isn't
really.
it like $40 or something? It's
I
not
guess something like that.
expensive. It's
Yeah,
you
they're
know.
really compared to what we used to spend. We spent over $1,000 on charts on our first cruise, and it was only half the cruise.
Right. It was just like to get from Toronto down through the Caribbean.
Yeah, and then when we got to a lot of the places, we didn't
That
have
was
the
in
enough details.
1989. So
Yikes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Oh. Do you still use a sextant? We do, but
Just
for fun.
We get it out and do some sights. So on the crossings, we're going to definitely
Yeah.
get it out and brush up on it, because it's a fun thing to do and a skill to
Right.
have.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's terribly useful, but it is fun.
Yeah.
I
and
like
it's-
doing it.
You're in touch with
maritime history, and it makes you understand navigation in a new, a different way. And somebody else was asking about, how do you stave off boredom? Well, activities like that are fun to do when you're at sea, but you're never bored, because there's always something to do with the boat and trimming the sails, and we listen to audiobooks, and we're constantly navigating. I love to cook. I'm lucky I don't get seasick, so
I'm lucky you love to cook at sea. I'll cook
Yeah.
in port, but I don't want to be in the galley too long at sea. So.
Yeah. Okay. So many great questions here. Oh, what's our fastest Atlantic crossing? Was it?
That's crazy. That well, not only you call it, it's 11 and a half days, really,
From
which is rather insanely fast. Of course, that's from the Cape Verde, so I guess we were 4 days down, so it makes it 15 or so, 15 on the crossing. But this part, the 2,000 miles across from the Cape Verde across to St. Lucia, we did that in 11 and a half days. So
And
that was brilliant.
Last week's Q&A on how to do a transatlantic crossing, we have some of the footage that we shot on our last transatlantic crossing, just showing that. And yeah. Oh, there's so many. Hello from Dubai. Oh my gosh. Hi, Danielle. And
Must be late in Dubai. Oh no, it's I guess only 8 or so at night, I guess.
Ed Moore says, I think you need to write a book or several. Well, we did write a book called Sail Away, A Guide to Outfitting and Provisioning for Cruising, which we are updating to a 3rd edition. It's done very well, but we've been working on that for a few years because things change so much so fast these
I'd rather
days.
make a TV show instead.
Yeah,
and do more,
so
do more
I think
YouTube videos.
We'll blog. Check our blogs on distantshores.ca. Okay. Well, so many questions about different boats, types of insurance, medications, what to do about medications on an ocean crossing. All those
That's
kinds of
something
things.
you'll have
We'll
to plan
go
for,
back
for
and answer those later. Because it's Sunday, and I'm sure you all have lots of plans.
Yeah, we've been up an hour.
Monday in
That's gotta get
Australia,
to
I
it.
guess, in the other part of the world.
Is
Good
it already?
morning. Yes. So
Good,
we're going
cool.
to do a draw.
Let's
We're
do
going to do
that.
a
That's
draw for our super pack, the whole box set. 26 DVDs with 130 episodes.
Wow, there's a zillion
Good for the
comments.
This is a good resource for planning your dream destination cruise.
Okay, there's one.
Rick and Yvonne from Chicago. Richard Fee. Congratulations, guys.
Cool.
If you could send me a message with your shipping address, you can send it by email to Distant Shores, all one word, at Rogers, ROGERS.com. And we'll get Dawn, our office manager, to send you out this congratulations, and hope
Includes
this
all the downloadables too in high definition. So
Yes.
we send out a download code.
Let
So
me just write that down. And can you choose a next name for our Ireland, Scotland,
there's one.
Norway, and Brittany coast?
how about that? Can you read it? One of those. Yep.
Oh, Sailing Epoch. Congratulations. You have won Distant Shores.
Were you
Season
interested in
8.
sailing to high latitudes? I can't remember. That's our highest latitudes. That the picture on the front there. I don't know if you can see that. Picture on the front. So that's the most north we've ever been. That's 61 degrees north, and the snow up on the mountains in Norway. So that was an anchorage that turned out to be the very furthest north we ever took any of our boats. So, and that was a really fun cruise actually. Ireland, Scotland, the Brittany coast, but Ireland, Scotland, Norway. Just
Yeah,
it was a
beautiful.
very gorgeous summer, and part of the reason we wanted a pilot house so that we could not have to
Yes.
stand outside crossing
Yeah.
the North Sea.
Yeah, and even if these aren't destinations you're interested in, we do a lot of how-to stuff on anchoring and
Yeah.
weather and just life on board. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you'll enjoy them. And for our third prize, we have
Okay, do you want to pick someone there, and
Yeah.
I'll show it. This is going to the Med and sailing in the Med, and then sailing across to the Caribbean and up in the Bahamas. So that was the first time we took one of our Southerlies into the Bahamas, and just had a hoot there. And so that's a really nice, fun mixed
Yes.
sampler kind of season that it's got a whole
Right,
bunch of
right.
destinations.
And John Coffey is our winner of
Okay,
this
great.
DVD. So, John, if you're still here, if you could
We
send
can-
us a
can we
message.
message or something?
Yes.
Yeah, we know how to.
We'll try to do that. But if you could reach out to us
Yeah,
too,
that's
that's
good.
very helpful. With we just need your shipping address, an email, and phone number, so we can get these off to you.
Great.
So thank you, everybody. It's always such a pleasure. We really have been enjoying these Sunday morning get-togethers for Q&A, and the recording of today will be posted on the Distant
I'll-
Shores YouTube
I'll
channel
edit it
later.
and take the front stuff off so you can watch just the 1 hour in the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah.
And thanks all for coming. And
Yes, and we'll post when we're back next. We're not sure about next Sunday because we've got a family due. One
Yeah.
of the things we're enjoying about being home this
Yeah.
summer. Take care,
thanks all,
everyone.
everybody. Have a
Hope you've
wonderful
had a
Sunday.
great weekend, and happy sailing.
Are you interested in the cruising lifestyle? Are you planning to sail away on a cruising adventure? Are you interested in the cruising lifestyle? Are you planning to sail away on a... I wanted to see the world.
I longed for the romance of travel
Now we live on a sailboat.
and travel the oceans. Join us as we sail to distant shores.